Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Won Yoon. I'm with the Office of Nuclear Energy for the U.S. Department of Energy. Um, I will go over a scholarship and fellowship available for 2019 academic year. This presentation is mainly composed of three sections: overview and important dates that you need to remember, and the point of contact. Okay, we have mainly two supports, which is 1 year 7,500,000 awards for undergraduate support and a 3 year $155,000 awards for graduate support. And the applications must be affiliated with an IUP approved university, which will be available in the applications in detail. And the purpose of this scholarship and fellowship is to attract qualified nuclear science and engineering students to nuclear energy professions. For the scholarships are awarded for undergraduate study at 2 and 4 year institutions, leading to a major or minor degree or certificate in the fields or disciplines of nuclear science and engineering relevant to the US DOE any missions, which is to advance nuclear power to meet nation's energy, environment, and national security needs. Fellowships are awarded for graduate level working leading to a master's or doctor's degree in the field or disciplines of, again, nuclear science and engineering relevant to DOE any mission. Besides IUP scholarship and fellowship, there are other scholarly support available through NRC, National Regulatory Commission, Nuclear Regulatory Commissions, and NNSA, National Nuclear Security Administration. So if you're interested in the career with NRC or NNSA, we are encouraged to apply those opportunities as well. And I like to emphasize that the following areas are not a priority of DOE: medical physics, nuclear fusion, nuclear forensics, environmental management. We had a very highly qualified students, but their interest was in nuclear fusion, so we had to turn down. So please ensure that your priority is not following one of these categories. Again, scholarship application requirements. Applications must be affiliated with an IUP approved institutions, and applications will be accepted from all US citizens and legal permanent residents. And following eligibility restrictions are available here. The students must have completed at least one semester of undergraduate study to apply and be enrolled as an undergraduate at the time of award. And students must have maintained at least 3.25 cumulative GPA. In other words, if your GPA is 3.249, they will not be rounded up. And again, students holding on F1 student visa are not eligible. Okay, additional requirements for fellowships. Again, um, the applicants must be affiliated with an IUP approved institutions. And same restrictions apply for citizenship and residence. For specific restrictions for fellowship, only students who are in their early stage of graduate level works are described in the solicitations are eligible. Student must have maintained at least a 3.5 cumulative GPA at both the graduate and undergraduate levels. Again, GPAs are not rounded. Same restriction for F1 student visa. Okay, I'd like to reiterate some restrictions for fellowships. The applications are generally eligible to apply. Number one, during their senior year of undergraduate studies. Number two, after graduating from an undergraduate college and prior to entering graduate schools, or during their first or second year of graduate study. These are important due dates that you need to remember. The request for applications will be released August 13, 2018, which is this coming Monday. The due dates for applications is October 10, 2018. And we are anticipating the announcement of results around spring 2019. And the applications are available in www.naup.gov. Here are the contact information. So if you have any specific questions, you can send it to me, or if it's related to application and submittal questions, please refer to Shri Novich. And that concludes my presentation. So if you have any specific questions, I'm here to answer. And Brett, would you come up and...
Okay, we'll be taking questions on the IUP program for the next few minutes. Please do submit your application questions now. Juan, can a mechanical engineering student with a minor in nuclear engineering be eligible for application for both the scholarship and fellowship programs?
Well, absolutely. You don't have to major in nuclear engineering.
Looks like that's the only question we have. So, Greg, you want to make it clear?
Well, one thing I would like to point out, I'm not sure how many students have the opportunity to understand that we're giving a webinar since it is early in the academic year. So as professors at research institutions, other individuals who will know interested applicants, please do share this information as appropriate. We have found that the #1 way that students become aware of these opportunities is through you as a professor or an instructor. So do share this information with others as appropriate.
Where can I find the solicitation?
It's www.naup.gov.
It won't be released until Monday, August 13th, so you won't see it until then. Why such a high undergraduate GPA requirement for graduate level fellowships?
So our basic awardee is much higher than that on their GPA. So that is the line. We have many applicants every year. So over the years, that is where we have adjusted our GPA requirement to, so that we have the appropriate number of applications to review without seeing too many that would not be successful, even if they had everything else correct. And just to stress, that is a lower GPA at the scholarship than it is at the fellowship.
Can health physics students be funded?
Health physics students can be funded.
Are minority students applicants having any special treatment in this call?
No, they do not. In fact, it's not something that we can ask for on an application form. So there's no benefit of consideration there.
And these are strictly merit-based.
Does the area of study need to be directly on nuclear energy generation, or can it be related to nuclear energy such as plant operations?
Can certainly be related to plant operations. This is nuclear science and education. So when you think in terms of that, it's not just the generation of energy. That has everything to do with the holistic field.
In addition to GPA, what are the other consideration criteria?
Find those in the web. You can find the full review criteria listed in the FOAs. So if you're a scholarship applicant or a fellowship applicant, do know that they will vary. If you want to get a sneak peek at what those will potentially look like, you can look at past requests for applications. They will be highly consistent between past years and the offering this year. So we'll be asking you for things like letters of reference, transcripts, that type of thing. Yeah, then depending on whether it's a fellowship or a scholarship, we'll ask you to write a career statement, small essay.
So there's a question here about how the research proposal is handled for student IUP awards. Do you want to comment on the research proposal, the research interest section, Greg?
We certainly anticipate that you do have research interests that support NSNE. It helps if you have that codified with a faculty member. We do understand that those do have somewhat of a forecast element to them. They are your interests. It's not necessarily a career plan, but we do want to know what your interests are. Those are evaluated. So it does help if you have some input through your institution in terms of what that will look like. We do want to make sure those IUP institutions have been vetted. We do know that they have the appropriate faculty, they have the appropriate facilities. It's also a requirement that they don't keep any overhead on your award. So we will be evaluating those institutions against what your career aspirations may be. So there's a little kind of a broad brush stroke at what that is.
So as a further clarification there isn't a formalized research proposal that comes along with these IUP fellowships. It's a declaration of research interests, which will then be formalized once the fellowship award is awarded. Is there a limit on having other fellowships or grants at the same time?
Yes. If you're looking at federal support, the concept of gaining support through other federal institutions so that you are double dipping per se, that is not allowed. If you are a military applicant, there are some, not restrictions, but guidelines in that extent to how you can be funded, and you can consult the individual requests for applications. If you choose to take summer employment, there is a reduction in the amount of your stipend since you're being paid in the summer. We do anticipate that as a fellowship awardee that you will conclude an internship at a national laboratory or other DOE approved facility. During those opportunities, you will be ineligible for payment by that institution because you will be on salary per se from the IUP. We do have some award money in there for travel, etc. So there are some restrictions on other support.
As a professor monitoring GPA inflation, I have found that recommendations and productivity are much better metrics to measure students by. Can you comment on why the GPA is focused on and why the threshold is so high?
As I said earlier, it's not necessarily a focus on the GPA. That's an entry to actually submit an application. You'll also note that we take letters of reference. Those letters of reference have just as much, potentially more weight when it comes to the table. It's just a question of the student actually being eligible to submit an application. GPA does not determine outcome. GPA determines eligibility.
In regards to the additional support question that came up earlier, they're referencing specifically a research grant project from an industry representative like EPRI or a different industry partner.
So you'll find in the FOA that you actually are being remunerated by IUP to perform your studies. So we do need to understand that that is not a distraction or that it would cause you to inappropriately lose focus on what you're being supported to do through IUP. So there are considerations there. Those details are available in the request for applications.
Can you clarify the distinctions between areas of interest in energy, environment, and national security in relation to nuclear forensics and environmental management? Two areas that you've indicated are not a priority.
So for nuclear forensics and environmental management, if those are your focus topics, your focus areas, those for the confines of this RFA are not attractive to DOE NE. IUP as a whole is a composite program that provides funding to the NRC and NNSA. The NRC and NNSA have different interest areas, so you may be eligible for one of their awards. Those restrictions that we have are specific only to the IUP awards that are made through DOE NE, not the IUP support that flows through either the NRC or through NNSA. Those are entirely separate solicitations.
How do I find out if my university is an IUP approved university?
There's a full list of those in the solicitation. I'm looking now to Aaron Gravel to see if he remembers about how many we have.
83.
83?
Yeah, 83 institutions listed on the applications.
I just sent the link out to everyone if they do want to check their university. What obligations do recipients of these scholarships and fellowships have to DOE NE after they graduate?
None. We do expect that at the fellowship level, we're gonna contact you about once a year for as many as 5 years. We do have an obligation to track what our fellowship applicants are doing. We've been fairly successful with that. There's only a small handful, 2 to 3 individuals that we haven't been able to get a hold of. So we do anticipate some contact, but we have no employment requirement. We have no further responsibilities in terms of working for or with the department.
Can part of the scholarship fund be used for travel or equipment?
I think in the scholarship, the detail is going to be in the RFA. For the fellowship, there is travel allocation in there. I believe they can use some of the scholarship to attend ANS. Check the RFA for that, please.
Okay, those are all the questions we have. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Greg. We will be returning at 1 p.m. Eastern time. At that point in time, we will be starting the NSUF overviews. And later in the afternoon, we'll start on the work scope overviews. So please join us again at 1 p.m. Eastern.